Uh, Greetings, my fellow Americans, ladies and gentlemen. I am Professor Yalengi, a graduate of the Salvation Army College in Kinshasa, previously Zaire, today the DRC. I'm also a graduate of Louisiana State University and Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in the United States. I'm also a graduate of Columbia University in New York City. I'm coming to you today to speak to you about something so crucial. We're going to talk a little bit about Greek mythology and Rwandan reality. And the reason why, because after so many years, let's just say beginning 1994 until today, when the genocide of Rwanda took place, until today, where since 1996, killing, gang raping, murder, and mutilations have not stopped in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Many stories have been told. Many versions of what's going on has been propagated. But after many years of research, beginning 2001, when Laurent Desire Kabila was killed, we have come to the conclusion that the problem, the foundation of the problem, is anthropology or culture. So finally, I came to the conclusion that we can compare Greek mythology to Rwandan reality. So we say that in Greek mythology, it is said that Cretans are always liars. What we have uncovered in the reality in Rwanda is that Rwandan Tutsis are always liars. So we're going to give you some of the evidence today. We are not going to be long. We're going to go through a few slides so that we can share it with you. So the first slide I'm going to show you about Epimenides. He is a Greek philosopher of 6 BC before Christ. He was also a religious prophet. Why this guy? Because we know that he wrote what is called the Epimenides Paradox, where he said that Cretans are always liars, even though he was also from Crete. So that's a paradox. Where do we get this? Epimenides wrote in 6 BC. In 1 AD, the Apostle Paul in the Bible, in his epistle to Titus, chapter 1, verses 12 to 14, the Apostle Paul writes to Titus, who was his teacher. Now, you got to know something about the Apostle Paul. Apostle Paul was a Greek scholar. He also studied Latin. He was a Jewish, what was called a Jewish leader and a scholar. They called them Pharisees. His father was a Pharisee. He also was a Pharisee. He was a learned person. We will say today he was a doctor or a PhD in Greek philosophy, in religious studies, Jewish religious studies. So when he wrote to Titus in the epistle to Titus, he wrote to him, he said, one of Crete's own prophets has said it, quote, Cretans are always liars, evil brutes, idle bellies. he has surely told the truth. For this reason, he told Titus, corrected them sternly, that they may be sound in faith. So the Apostle Paul, when he said the Crete's own prophet, he was talking about Epimenides, we just said. So from this, therefore, we get the paradox of Epimenides. So this same truth is what we know about Crete. So therefore, we're comparing this Greek paradox that Cretans are always liars to what we want to show you today, that Rwandan Tutsis are also always liars. So how do we get this? This is the Prime Minister of Rwanda in 1994, before the genocide, before the Tutsis took over. This Rwandan Prime Minister, her name is Agathe Uwilingiyimana. Agathe Uwilingiyimana. He was a Prime Minister, and on January 8, 1994, he was the Prime Minister, because the genocide is going to begin in 1994 after the downing of President Habyarimana's plane I think on the 6th of April. But on the 8th of January 1994 in Kigali, in Rwanda, this Rwandan Prime Minister declared, in the presence of the then Rwandan President Habyarimana and the head of the UN mission to Rwanda, quote, she said, "Rwandans are liars, and this is part of their culture. From childhood, they are taught to not tell the truth, especially if it can hurt them." So this is a Rwandan Prime Minister who said this in front of the president of his own country and the UN head, the head of the UN mission to Rwanda. So this is what she said, and she was not the only one. So we can go back to the history. This is what she said, so you can see that. So we can go back to history, and by looking at Monsignor Alexis Kagame. He lived from 1912 to 1981. He was a Rwandan philosopher. He was a Catholic priest. He was a linguist. He was a historian. He is known to have written a lot of books. He was a Tutsi Monsignor. The thing that we remember him for, he was a big, strong defender of the Rwandan philosophy and culture. This culture, this philosophy, they called it Ubwenge in the Rwandan language, which is called Kinyarwanda, the language that everybody spoke. I'm going to give you the two articles, documents written by Rwandans, one by Antoine Nietera, a Tutsi prince, one by Gaspard Musa Bimana, or also a Tutsi living in exile in Europe, where they develop and they give us the details about this culture, this philosophy that most of us do not know. Most of us do not know. But Monsignor Kagame, he said that for him, Europeans, especially white people, were smart, were knowledgeable in terms of their scientific achievements like chemistry, mathematics, science, engineering. But to him, Europeans, and especially whites, they are not intelligent. They are not intelligent, in other words, to him, because they cannot decipher the Rwandan Tutsi culture of lying. We're going to see the definition of this thing. For him, Europeans, especially white, they are not intelligent. So we're going to find out a little more about what did Monsignor Kagame mean. So we're going to speak now a little bit about Antoine Nietera. He was a Tutsi prince, a scholar, and a long-time professor. In a website, Hungry for Truth, Peace and Justice, where this photo comes from, this magazine about Prince Nietera, they write, Mr. Nietera is not a simple Tutsi. He is a Tutsi from the royal family. He has lived in Rwanda during all regimes that have succeeded each other during the century, i.e., the monarchy, the two republics, meaning the Kayibanda and the Habyarimana regimes. Mr. Nietera fled the Rwandan Patriotic Front. In other words, after all of the history that he lived when Paul Kagame and the RPF came to power in 1994, beginning with the genocide to 1995, this Tutsi prince, even though he survived, he lived there from during the monarchy when the Tutsi was ruling over the Hutus, and then the two republics beginning in 1959 when there was a referendum and the Hutus majority won the referendum. They chose to get rid of monarchy and the Tutsis fled. Some of the Tutsis fled. He was still there. He remained in Rwanda. So, and he was there under both the Hutus regime of Kayibanda, President Kayibanda and President Habyarimana. But he had to flee the country when Paul Kagame came to power, when the Tutsis came to power. Why? Well, because Paul Kagame and the Tutsis that came with him, they wanted to go back to establish the dominance of Tutsis minority over the Hutus. And therefore, they used the culture of Ubwenge to get rid of anyone and everyone, whether Tutsis or Hutus or white or black or religious leader or non-religious leader, to kill them, to get rid of them, so that they can impose themselves over the Hutus in Rwanda. That's why Antoine Nietera had to flee Rwanda and had to go and live in Belgium, where he died in 2012. What did Nietera say? Nietera wrote a document titled Education in Lying and Defamation. You can find this document online. So if online, if you type Rwandan mindset and culture, then education in lying and defamation, you'll be able to read the entire document online. But this is a little bit part of what you can read in that document. Lying does not ever offend the Tutsis' moral conceptions. Why? Because for them, it is a noble manner of challenging two intelligences, a challenge at which the loser is not offended or dishonored by the defeat, because that's part of their culture. They lie with total disregard to whether you're going to believe it or not, but for them, they have to make you believe it. Nietera also writes, the Tutsis, he quotes one of the European researchers who went to Rwanda and investigated this culture, I think, before independence. He wrote, the Tutsis are unique at having an intense desire at pretending. But it also favors duplicity, which is what makes this race one of the most lying that exist under the sun. Antoine Nietera also gives one of the saying that the Tutsis believe in, that they teach from childhood. They teach the children, as the Prime Minister said, that they are taught from childhood not to tell the truth. So there's a saying in the Rwandan language of Kinyarwanda. It says, ukuli kurazirua, as you can see there. Ukuli kurazirua, what translates in the truth kills. Therefore, the Tutsis never tell the truth. You can never tell the truth because why? Because for them, the truth kills. The next one, Gaspard Musa Bimana, a Rwandan writer and researcher now living in exile in Belgium. He is the author of The Culture of Lying in Rwanda, which you can also read. You can read online. If you type that, you'll see it online. So for Musa Bimana, he says that the culture of telling lies called ubwenge is, in Rwanda, an undeniable cultural fact. Okay? That's what he says. He's a Rwandan. He says the culture of telling lies called ubwenge is, in Rwanda, an undeniable cultural fact. By the way, just a little history. He wrote this document in the early 2000s when a French scholar, Pierre Péan, was sued by Paul Kagame and his government in France because he wrote a book about that the Tutsis practice lying on all that they did. I think is the title in French, I think, is Noir, quelque chose, something like that, Blanc menteur, Noir, something like that. It's in French anyway. But he wrote this document to help Pierre Péan defend himself against the Rwandan government. And Pierre Péan won that trial, and so the government of Rwanda lost. But Musa Bimana wrote that document. Please read it. You're going to see a lot of the truth and understand what this ubwenge is. Now, I want to give you also a document. Michelle Wrong, that you see there, she's a British writer and journalist with over 20 years of working in Africa, including the African Great Lakes, especially Rwanda and the Congo Zaire. Okay, so everyone should read her article titled "The Virtue of Lying?" Unmasking the truth about the Rwandan genocide. Why we want to read Michel Aron? Because it also goes back to quote Epimenides Paradox that I started with, which is also in the Bible, which says that all Cretans are always liars, says Epimenides the Cretan. So just from her article, she says the reason why she went back to Epimenides because she writes, I quote, "It came to mind because Rwandans kept telling me that deceiving others, being economical with the truth, was something their community reveled in, positively prided itself upon. Especially when dealing with Western outsiders, a proof of superiority, not shame." In other words, for Tutsis, lying is a proof of superiority, not shame, when successfully achieved. So much so that the practice had worked itself into the language. Naïf comme les blancs. That means naive as a white people. Just goes back to almost what the philosopher Alexis Kagame said, that white people are not intelligent. Okay, he says naive as white people, naïf comme les blancs. Rwandans will say of someone in the same way that other cultures will say, as thick as two short planks, or as dumb as a post. One of Rwandan prime minister, she's talking about Agathe Uwilingiyimana, the one I told you, what she said, when she said that Rwandans are liars and it's part of their culture. In childhood, they are taught to not tell the truth, especially if it can hurt people. Now, in 1994, when Paul Kagame took over, she was one of the first victims. Why? Because she was a Rwandan Hutu. And according to their philosophy, according to what they wanted to achieve, was to kill every Rwandan Hutu who was a leader, who was an intellectual, who was somebody who had knowledge, who could withstand them, who could speak, who could defend the Hutus. They had to kill them. So one of the first victims was the prime minister, this lady who was a scholar also, Agathe Uwilingiyimana. Okay, so then Michel Arong writes, a successor told me the same thing over coffee in a Brussels hotel lobby many years later. Quote, in Rwanda, lying is an art form. When you, as a white journalist, leave a meeting, they will be congratulating themselves. Quote, they will say, we took her for a ride. End quote. Lying is the rule rather than the exception. So to Rwandans, lying is a rule rather than the exception. Okay. So again, I'm going to ask you to read this article by Wrong, so you can develop more in terms of the culture of Rwanda. Okay. Now, what happened? What did the Rwandan Tutsi government or Paul Kagame do to anyone who spoke the truth? They killed you. They didn't care whether you were white, black, Tutsis, Hutu, whatsoever. This is the image of Kizito Mihigo. If you don't know it, if you don't know much about Rwanda, check it out. She was a young man who survived the genocide of 1994, a Tutsi. She survived, and then she became a born-again Christian. She therefore believed in God's truth instead of Ubwenge, meaning the culture of lying. So he sang of reconciliation between Tutsis and Hutus. Because of that, he also, by the way, sang about reconciling the Rwandans with the Congolese people, because he knew that the killing in the Congo was being done by Tutsis of Kagame's government. So he sang about it. Because of that, Paul Kagame assassinated this young man. So as you can see on the left, it's him with a microphone, and on the right is his body. How he was tortured and killed by Paul Kagame because he wanted to defend the truth, because he sang of the truth. That's why he was killed. Now, so the question is, why did I present this aspect of Rwandan culture? Because, ladies and gentlemen, everything that has been happening in the Congo and in Rwanda beginning in 1994 is due to or is caused by the policy of Rwandan Tutsis in practicing the culture of Ubwenge. So therefore, we, the whole world, America, needs to understand this. Why? Because beginning with Bill Clinton in 1994, 1995, when the Tutsi, when there was genocide in Rwanda, the people who started that genocide, the UN have the information, America, we have the information. Some it hasn't come out yet. It was Paul Kagame and his Rwandan Tutsis who had come from Uganda, who downed the airplane that was bringing President Bimana and another president of Burundi, Ntaryamira, back to Africa, back to Rwanda, I think from Arusha in Tanzania. They downed it. The reason that Paul Kagame did that so that he can start the genocide. That is what was said. Now, therefore, beginning with that genocide, you can read and understand that since then, Paul Kagame and his government, his Tutsis government, destroyed, eliminated, mass murdered, ethnically cleansed the Hutus majority to reduce their numbers. Sometimes Paul Kagame and the Tutsis army, they will even kill their own Tutsi people so that they can blame it on the Hutus. Paul Kagame killed his own Tutsi people in Rwanda so they can blame it on the Hutus so that the international community can back them up. Why then the other Tutsis who remained in Rwanda followed whatsoever Paul Kagame imposed? Again, it's one of the aspects of the Rwandan culture that you and I don't know. Antoine Nietera, when you read that document, you will find out why. But I'm going to read it to you, part of it. Listen to the words that you read from Antoine Nietera, a Tutsi prince who wrote about the culture of his own people because he also was a born-again Christian who believed in truth, therefore rejected the philosophy, the culture of lying of his people, of his ancestors. He wrote, he said, contrary to the West, listen carefully, contrary to the West, and I'm going to finish here, we're going to finish with that, we'll do just 30 minutes. Contrary to the West, the truth does not bind the judge and does not even constitute a goal for the justice system in Rwanda, according for the Tutsis. The opinion of the individual remains entirely subordinated to the interest of the group. Justice, listen carefully, justice is not to render to each person what is due him, but rather to re-establish the social harmony, to respect social hierarchy, as well as the established rules. Thus, the family, the clan, the tribe are but a whole in which each member is but a part of it. He continues, the relationship with the authority imposes another vision of the truth. Listen. A use of the truth for the authority's own interest. The authority's own interest. So the truth is what the authority decides what's going to be. The truth is the one that gets closer to the opinion of the chief. One does not testify against the authority, whatever it may be. One always looks for being on the side of the authority. Listen, the poor person will always lose a trial that opposes him against the chief or the head, or else against the powerful. So the truth, justice in Rwanda, according to the Tutsis culture, is not about the justice. Justice is always what the authority says, what the rich says, what the powerful says. So it's long, but I want you to read the article, and so you understand. Therefore, everything that is happening in the Congo right now, everything that is happening in the DRC, everything that is happening in the DRC, everything that has been happening all over the world is founded on, is being driven by the Rwandan Tutsis reality of always lying. They lie to the Americans. Actually, I should read to you just the last paragraph of what Antoine Nietera wrote, because he wrote really something that is very crucial. Okay. Here, and we're going to finish here. This is Antoine Nietera, because he was also one of the witnesses at the Tribunal of Arusha, the Rwandan Tribunal of Arusha, that dealt with the Rwandan genocide. So this is what he writes in his document. At the end, by the way, in the article, he talks about the different lies that the manipulations that the Rwandan Tutsis did. Listen to this, and we're going to finish here, okay? At the end, the biggest lie by the RPF, the Rwandan Patriotic Front of Paul Kagame, was, listen, to make the international community believe that it wanted to participate in the peace accords that were negotiated in Arusha, and that it was interested in power sharing through elections. The international community, meaning America, England, Germany, France, all these people who were working together to try to bring peace to Rwanda. So Paul Kagame and the IPF lied to them, convinced them that they wanted peace. The international community, the foreign governments called the facilitators, contributed large sums of money in order to support these negotiations, while the RPF on its side had no intention that these negotiations succeed. Louis Claes, the then Foreign Affairs Minister of Belgium, declared before the Belgian Senate inquiry, which wanted to obtain more information about the events that took place in Rwanda, that in early 1994, he had met RPF leaders in Kampala who declared to him that they were not going to participate in the expanded transitional government that was demanded in the accords that both parties had signed in 1993. Again, so therefore, to sum it up, this is Rwandan Tutsis philosophy, culture, and practice. I'm saying, revealing this to my fellow Americans, because Paul Kagame and the Rwandan Tutsis misled the government of Bill Clinton. They misled the government of Bill Clinton. They misled Bill Clinton to the point where he was praising Paul Kagame and praising what Paul Kagame did. But when the investigators wanted to find out and expose the crimes that the RPF did, they fired the prosecutor, Carla Del Ponte. They fired her. But later, when Bill Clinton found out that the Paul Kagame and the Tutsis have really lied to him, manipulated him, he didn't invite Paul Kagame anymore to America, to his foundations. The same thing happened. They lied to Barack Obama. They lied to Bush and W. Bush, so that what has happened in America has been that America had been manipulated by Rwandan Tutsis through what they call Ubwenge, their culture. So that's why what we wanted to give today, we're not going to give many more. Maybe in the next edition, we will talk a little more about the consequences of this for America. Because America right now has been supporting Paul Kagame's Tutsis. They are killing in the Congo. They are destroying in the Congo. They are lying in the Congo, to the point where these Tutsis, what they have done, they have taken up identities, names, as they're passing themselves as a Congolese in America and in the Congo, where when you look at the history, the colonial history, you will never find that there are any native Congolese Tutsis or native Congolese Hutus or native Congolese Banyarwanda or native Congolese Banyamulenge. In fact, the word Banyamulenge is a creation of 1976. It was created. We'll talk a little more about it in the future. But therefore, these people right now in the Congo, the Tutsis have taken over the government of the Congolese government. They're the one who's running the government, so that this young man called Felix Chilombo or Tshisekedi is not in power. He is being dictated by the Rwandan Tutsis, who control now the government in the Congo. The prime minister of the Congo right now is a nephew of Paul Kagame. He's a Rwandan Tutsi. The minister of defense is a Rwandan Tutsi. Native Rwandan Tutsi was never Congolese. The minister of infrastructures, Gisaro, is also Rwandan Congolese. Felix's wife, Nyakeru, is a Rwandan Tutsi native, not Congolese. So both the prime minister, the minister of defense, the minister of infrastructure, the wife of Felix is a Rwandan Tutsi. So therefore, all these so-called Tutsi leaders who were in the Congo, have been in the Congo for a long time, such as those politicians who were there before, they are working with Nyakeru for them to lead Felix into doing all these things. When Felix denounces Rwanda today, okay, he's denouncing Rwanda, but nothing is happening in the Congo. He has not closed the borders with Rwanda. He has not expelled the Rwandans who are in the military. He has not expelled the Rwandans who are in security positions in the DRC. Therefore, everything is working according to what we spoke about today. That is the culture of Rwanda, which is Ubwenge, which is manipulation, which is lying, and everybody is taken into it. Therefore, America, do the research and wake up and see what Rwandans' culture of lying is doing to America in terms of their policy in Africa, especially in the African Great Lakes region. Thank you. This is Professor Yalengi coming to you from New York City. And we hope that we will do another article soon about to follow up on what we spoke about today. Okay? God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.